Can't Fold Volume 4 is officially out now. Go get your official Save America and Holy Confidence shirts, along with the bumper stickers for each. Be sure to subscribe to the emails to get notified about the drop, and thank you guys so much for supporting.
There's a weird horseshoe theory thing that's happening here. We've talked about it before on the program, that you have this constellation of far leftists who are rather friendly toward Hamas, who generally are isolationist on foreign policy, but they're isolationist on foreign policy mainly because they believe that the United States is a nefarious force in the world. They're sort of Howard Zinn or Noam Chomsky with regard to American foreign policy. America is actually bad. That horseshoe theory has now swung all the way around, and it includes some people on the right. Now, as we'll talk about in a moment, when it comes to isolationism, as we've discussed, there are a bunch of different perspectives within the isolationist perspective. There is the we should not get involved in foreign conflicts no matter what perspective because we need the money here at home, which means that you're also in favor of cutting spending by the government on a wide variety of other subjects. There's also an isolationism that suggests that whenever America gets involved in foreign conflicts, that tends to taint the United States, not it's about the United States tainting the rest of the world. But there is a theory that has now arisen on the right that there is something deeply malign about the United States, something deeply wrong with the United States. This was made apparent over the weekend. Tucker Carlson was on Joe Rogan's show. Obviously, I'm very friendly with Joe. I think Joe does a great job during his interviews. And there was a clip from this interview that went particularly viral. This is a clip in which Tucker Carlson calls the United States evil for having dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, ending World War II, and then suggests that anyone who would justify that is also evil, which is a very traditionally left-wing perspective. It is not traditionally a particularly right-wing perspective.
I gotta disagree, man.
He kind of is taking it out of context. I actually listened to the whole thing, and they were talking about, like, when you think about it now, like, would you do it again? Was the conversation. No. And, like, because they didn't know, like how bad it would be, this and that.
That was the first one they ever dropped.
Yeah, so that's kind of the conversation, how it was. And then it was, like, they were debating, like, was it worth it? He didn't even say, was it worth it or not? Because there was, like, basically, the reason they said, I think the U.S. did that was because if they didn't do that, then Hitler was going to do it. So they were trying to say that it was the lesser of the two because if Hitler got a hold of the nukes, he could have ended the world.
Is that what it is? That's what
they're saying on that podcast. That was my first time, hearing that. So
I've heard something completely different.
That's what they said. That's what they're saying on the podcast. So they were like debating, was it worth it? Because if Hitler would have got him, what would have happened? So that's what they were talking about. So that kind of took out of context a little bit, I think. But I watched the whole podcast.
That's crazy when you put the Eisenhower movie on top of that. It is kind of
the Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I thought they.
He said Eisenhower.
Oppenheimer.
No, I thought they had dropped the bomb on them because they wouldn't surrender. After the war was over, they would still fight.
That's what they show in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I had learned.
But that's a new perspective, though. That's a pretty good perspective.
Facts. I didn't know Hitler was involved at all. I was like, wow, what?
Carlson calls the United States evil for having dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, ending World War II, and then suggests that anyone who would justify that is also evil, which is a very traditionally left-wing perspective. It is not traditionally a particularly right-wing perspective because most people on the conservative side of the aisle tend to believe that America is a force for good in the world. And as we'll discuss, it turns out that dropping the atomic bomb on Japan was necessary for ending World War II and likely saved millions of lives, both American and Japanese. But here is Tucker.
Well, maybe I took what he said out of context too. Ben, that was kind of right, because that is more of a right-wing perspective, because everybody want to be pro-American. So like whatever it takes to feed the American families and whatever it takes for the families in America to be okay, that's what the people on the right usually say.
I ain't gonna lie.
So that's why it's like
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, Ben's not wrong with that, but that's why. But let's see.
But then he said also Japanese too, because I think if Hitler would have took over Japan, what would he have done? He was taking over countries. They said in days, like within a matter of days, he was taking over countries. I was like, wow, that's crazy.
Type of power.
But I'm pretty sure everybody, right, and
power.
I would say right and left wing perspectives, like we would say that was wrong what happened. We just didn't know. Like it's sad what happened, but I mean,
they said they were debating. Also, they were like, if there was a baby in its crib and you knew it was Hitler, what would you do?
That's crazy.
They said that. That's like a question people
That's
ask.
crazy.
question.
I don't know. Maybe put them in fucking something to make them not crazy. maybe introduce them to some comic
Because like
books
it's
or
messed up
something.
because it's a baby, but this baby's gonna grow up to be Hitler. So what are you wrong knowing? You know, like that's what that was this whole conversation they were having. That's why it was so kind of out of context, kind of how
Mike,
you take it.
You want to know what's
It's too
crazy? The
deep.
pastor fucking at church today quoted Hitler. He was
Not
like-
in a-
not in like a negative way. He was just like using it in like he was like to like send your kids to children's church like from 1 to 6. You can make them a Christian for life. He said that's what Hitler said about Nazis. Give me a baby from 1 to 6. I can make him a Nazi for life.
He did say
That's
that.
basically what he said. I was like, okay. He was joking.
That was funny.
Obviously, I'm very friendly with Joe. I think Joe does a great job during his interviews. And there was a clip from this interview that went particularly viral. This is a clip in which Tucker Carlson calls the United States evil for having dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, ending World War II, and then suggests that anyone who would justify that is also evil, which is a very traditionally left-wing perspective. It is not traditionally a particularly right-wing perspective because most people on the conservative side of the aisle tend to believe that America is a force for good in the world. And as we'll discuss, it turns out that dropping the atomic bomb on Japan was necessary for ending World War II and likely saved millions of lives, both American and Japanese. But here is Tucker.
Well, you could say the same about the atomic bomb, right?
Yes, you could.
And you could say
talking
that
about
we
AI
have to develop it like
that.
Oppenheimer felt before the Nazis
I
did.
love that. How'd that work? How'd that work?
Well,
I love, by the way, that people on my side, I'll just admit it, on the right, have spent the last 80 years defending dropping nuclear weapons on civilians. Like, are you joking?
right.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like it's not a tough one, right? It's not a
Right.
hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish,
saying that to-
sort of
He
intellectual.
was saying that because before this, they're talking about AI and how AI now is like looking like, it can end up being bad because they're saying something with AI is going to like turn into this. Like he was talking about conspiracy, like AI is like gonna basically become like this machine or something. And like, I forgot how he said it, but like basically it'll always be able to make itself smarter.
Yeah.
And it'll take everything everyone knows off every phone and all knowledge in the world is on the internet and it'll always have it and it'll be able to evolve itself and then eventually become like a quote unquote like a
devil or
a
something?
god type thing, like,
Yeah.
and because you'll have
A
to
devil.
submit to it. Yeah,
A devil.
That's what they were talking about. Like, so should you just blow up AI right now? And that's why, like, because they were talking about should you get like it's kind of like the nuke thing. Like, should they have just got rid of nukes altogether so that nobody could drop a nuke because it's too much power? So that's what they were talking about before this. That's why I feel like he kind of took it. It just to hear the whole conversation is way different than just one clip.
Yeah. What Tucker said was right to me, though.
But
definitely
I got
agree
a
with
question. Like, what was they supposed to do after Pearl Harbor?
I think they
know,
just
bro.
did it. The reason I read it is because they did it because the war had ended after. Because World War II, like fighting with Germany and them ended in 1944. So like this was after a whole year after we was in Germany still fighting, and they was like showing no signs of surrender.
Yeah.
Like so
They said they won't surrender.
In order to like
will not.
Yeah. Like in order to get them to surrender and we could stop fighting, we have been testing these big like weapons of mass
Yeah.
destruction in the desert. So they was like they seen how much it could do in the desert. They was like, bet we just gonna do it on them. They gonna stop.
And that's why Russia has more nuclear weapons than us, because they had all like the people that could create nuclear weapons in Germany. So like
But
that's
what
why
does Germany
Oppenheimer.
do that to do with Russia?
This is not in the same place. Am I
Nah,
tripping?
it's not.
So it's either Russia or Germany.
Germany's in Europe. Russia's like a continent.
So is it not
No,
next to
Russia's
Russia?
also in
It's
Europe.
near there.
But it's big on their own country.
Oh,
It's like-
So is it not next to Russia?
You got Ukraine, and then you got Poland, and then you got Germany.
It's like a big landmass.
So
So
maybe,
it's like-
I'm pretty
it's
sure
close to
Germany.
it.
I'm
My
pretty,
fault.
I'm pretty sure
It's
they
two.
have-
It's two countries before Germany.
But yeah, no. So we just knew that we dropped it on them areas because they was like densely populated, and we was trying to get them to bend the knee. But I can understand why he says the justification of it is very wrong. Like you just bomb people who had nothing to do with the war. I can also see the justification. We got to stop fighting here.
See, but y'all remember? Hold on, are we still going? Or?
No, go ahead.
Man, y'all remember, I don't want to bring this up, but with the Israel and all that, I said with the U.S. killed way more people than that, and nobody over here. And then now, that's why I was like, that was.
I remember we was arguing about that. That was like our first video.
I remember that dude brought up all the points the last time we reacted to that, and I brought up all them same points.
Ukraine,
No,
Poland,
facts.
Germany.
Yeah, so over there in the continent, that's where
Where's Russia?
They knew how to like make the atomic bombs. So that's why Russia has
It's
the most
huge.
Nukes.
Yeah, nukes. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that's
I said
why
it's a continent.
That's why they have the most right now. It's
I
because
tweaked.
everybody that could create it was damn near on that continent. That's why we had to go get people from that
Country.
continent to come over here to create
Country.
the bomb.
Well, I mean,
Continent,
country, same.
So he
thing.
said continent because Russia and Germany.
In Germany. Yeah, that's what I said. But I thought Germany had all the people that knew how to do it, but somehow Russia has the most right now.
That's just like prima facie evil.
Yeah.
If you can't, well, if we hadn't done that, then this, that, the other thing, that was actually a great savings. Like, no, it's wrong to drop nuclear weapons on people. And if you find yourself arguing that it's a good thing to drop nuclear weapons on people, then you are evil. Like it's not a tough one, right? It's not a hard call for you. It's not a hard call for me. So with that in mind, like, why would you want nuclear weapons? It's like just a mindless, childish sort of intellectual exercise to justify, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening?
Okay, actually, what would be childish is to assume that there are no other players in the world, for example, trying to develop nuclear weapons. The fact is,
oh my God, I agree with being.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
is
I feel
real,
like having nuclear weapons is almost like essential to the defense of your country today. Like,
is.
if you went to war with a country and they was like, we'll literally just nuke you, you literally have to bend the knee to them.
See, I
You know
feel
I'm
what
saying?
Tucker's saying is very wrong, but like Tucker, we weren't there to know what was going on
No,
at the
fact.
time.
It's not that simple.
I really feel
Yeah,
like
like-
it's a matter of like strategic, like.
but it is
Because
just
if
like
Hitler was gonna get it, what was he gonna do with it?
See, I never
What
heard
was
that
he gonna do
perspective,
with
so I
it?
don't really know.
He was doing
I'm just
some-
thinking like, okay, so what if all our people got blown up? You know, like that would be we would
Pretty
think
bad.
that's
Hey.
like so. That's why I feel what Tucker's saying, but like we're at a point where it's like these people have nuclear weapons. So
A
like,
lot of people
So we're gonna
have it
just say,
now.
oh,
It's
nobody
hard.
have nuclear weapons, and we're supposed
Yeah.
to trust everybody.
No,
Hey, they don't
facts.
have it. Well, we signed something, they don't have it.
No, facts.
They gonna have it.
I really think it's a matter of like having an ace up your sleeve, like just in case all else fails. I don't know. Like,
That's pretty bad, you know. But that's
Hey.
why they have that, you know, that people don't want to do nuclear wars. That's
no,
like,
facts. It's
But
devastating.
it's
That's what I'm
possible
saying.
it can happen.
A nuclear war could end the world.
Yeah,
Possibly,
facts.
yeah, for sure. That would be insane. though.
Defy, like, oh no, it's really good because someone else will get it. How about no? How about like spending all of your effort to prevent this from happening?
I wish.
Okay, actually, what would be childish is to assume that there are no other players in the world, for example, trying to develop nuclear weapons. The fact is, the Nazis were trying to develop nuclear weapons. There was, in fact, a nuclear arms race that was happening at the time. Not only that, as it turns out, the Soviet Union then developed nuclear weapons. And it is mutually assured destruction and nuclear deterrence that has kept the world largely from sinking into another World War III-like mass casualty morass because of the horror of dropping the nuclear bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the first place.
So everybody agrees. So we don't want to get into that.
Yeah.
We'll fight, but we don't want to get into that. That was
Yeah,
bad.
because it could end the whole world. Then there's no reason to fight for nobody because everybody dead.
So I don't really care, but I did think it showed like the level of not just corruption, which I knew, but of like emotional instability and craziness. I mean, there are people, and I stopped reading any of it, but there are people on the right who have spent the last 2 months every single day focused on a conflict in a foreign country as our own country becomes dangerously unstable on the brink of financial collapse with tens of millions of people who shouldn't be here in the country. We don't know their identities or the purpose of their being here. Like stuff that's could destroy the country for real and make it impossible for my kids to live here. They've said nothing about that, and they're focused with laser intensity on foreign conflicts. And I'm like, at some point, I've got 4 kids. If I'm so caught up in the problems of my neighbor's children and completely ignoring my own children as they get addicted to drugs and kill themselves, you know, I'm not against helping my neighbor's kids, but clearly I don't love my kids. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion, and they don't care about the country at all. And that's kind of their prerogative, but I do, because I have no choice, because I'm from here, my family's been here hundreds of years, I plan to stay here. Like, I'm shocked by how little they care about the country, and including the person you mentioned. And I can't imagine how someone like that could get an audience of people who claim to care about America, because he doesn't, obviously, right?
Right. Well, I mean, Tucker, we've seen it too on free speech. I mean, people who've become multimillionaires, who've made entire careers, who've literally became famous, on this very reason. I know you've spoken about this previously, but it's very important to our audience as well. Is that standing up for free speech rights of people you disagree with is probably the most important exercise, and we've seen some of that come for American citizens on Palestine. How do you work through this too when we're both under such immense pressure, even social pressure of like, how could you support this? Take maybe the context of the university presidents. We've got billionaires like Bill Ackman, I'm curious what you make of this. My assessment is they're upset that they're not included as marginalized within the DEI regime.
So what's going on here? I mean, really, it's a serious question. What's going on here with Tucker? So he tries to explain it. He says that he was actually radicalized by 2017. That basically until 2017, he believed a lot of narratives that were told by the government and by the mainstream media. And then after 2016, 2017, when it appeared that the intelligence community was militarized against Donald Trump, this is what radicalized him into basically becoming uber critical of everything. This is his story.
Probably unlike you, I didn't have any opinions like that. I was like, fluoride, come on. 9/11, shut up. Yeah. UFOs, you're crazy. You know what I mean? I just I had this reflexive. I'm ashamed of it. I'm not bragging about it, but it was 2017, and really it was the Trump campaign. It wasn't that I was like so in love with Trump, though I've always liked Trump because he's like hilarious and charming and all that. But I wasn't like a Trumper or anything. But it was watching that campaign, and particularly his claim that they were spying on him, and I was like, really, they're not. The intel services and federal law enforcement, FBI, do not spy on presidential campaigns. Like, that's so out of the realm. That's so crazy. Like, that could never happen because, of course, there's no democracy in a system like that. And fundamentally, we're a democracy, an imperfect one. It kind of lumbers along, but like it's not fake. And then that turned out to be true. And I knew it was true. And that just blew my mind. So I began a process still ongoing of reassessing a lot of other things. Like, okay, well, if that was not true, what else is not true? And what else that they told me was a conspiracy theory might actually have some basis in fact. And
okay, so in other words, he went all the way from, I believe all the narratives to I believe none of the narratives. In fact, I believe the counter of the set of facts with which I am presented. Now, first of all, let me just say about 2016, 2017. Yes, it is incredibly disturbing that the intelligence community was militarized against Donald Trump on the basis of a bunch of trumped-up nonsense from the Hillary Clinton campaign. Also, if this exploded your worldview as a conservative, that I find that surprising. Because as a conservative, you're supposed to be generally skeptical of government power. And not only that, if you know anything about presidential history, you know that a wide variety of presidential campaigns have been spied on by the administration in power. In 1940, for example, the Wendell Willkie campaign was pretty clearly spied on by the FBI at the behest of FDR. In 1964, LBJ literally bugged Barry Goldwater's headquarters in 1964. Famously, in 1972, the Richard Nixon campaign spied on the campaign of George McGovern, right? That's what Watergate was all about. So actually, there's a fairly well-predicated history of the instruments of law enforcement being misused, which is why there's been a hot debate about the utility of various law enforcement agencies on the right. This has been going on literally my entire lifetime and well before. Okay, but according to Tucker, that radicalized him. And now he went from supposedly believing everything to believing the reverse of everything. Now, that is actually not critical thinking. That's actually not critical thinking. If what you said is, I took in everything too much, too easily without examining the evidence, and so now I'm going to take a stronger look at the evidence before I come to a conclusion, that would be critical thinking. But saying that the evidence that is presented to you is now of no consequence whatsoever, that no evidence provided is sufficient because the source cannot be trusted, that they are lying to you, that they're always lying to you, always, and that no counter evidence is necessary to support your new thesis because, again, they're lying to you and they've hidden all the evidence. We are now in the world of the unfalsifiable. Any evidence again.
We're not as smart as you, Ben.
Okay. I see what he's saying. But him saying like that he changed. He took it all in too easily, and now he just questions what he's told. Is that not him saying that?
I feel like that's what Tucker was trying to say. But he went like he was just got how people get when they talk, and he was I don't believe nothing. But I don't think it's that he believes nothing. I think it's actually that's.
I think what Tucker was trying to say is what he would say was critical thinking.
Ben been acting different ever since he got on the rap song, man. The Tom McDonald.
But Ben's
keeping it real. He's dissecting it.
He's just taking what he said very literally.
He's taking it. He's dissecting it so literally. I'm not okay.
He been dissing everybody, but that's Ben. That's how his brain works. He too smart, bro.
But I mean, like, why this? I don't know.
We're not as smart as you, Ben. Tucker's an everyday American. You're not, Ben. I'm sorry. Okay, he's an everyday American too.
Yeah, but
Ben's just Tucker's an actual everyday American.
He thinks more regular.
He's a regular. Like,
I got a real question. Was he against America being
isolationist?
Yeah.
I think
he's against that. Yeah,
a little bit, and I don't think he should be all the way either. Because certain things, you do. We can't just let everything ride. Because World War II, what if we just let that ride?
No, facts.
That would have been a problem.
Facts.
So it's like there's certain cases. It's like case by case. Like you say, you gotta take everything case by case. You can't just be like, we not messing with nobody at all.
America was isolationist.
When?
During the whole World War,
they got into a World War
because they bombed us.
Because
they attacked us. We wasn't not a part of none of that until we got attacked.
What about World War I?
That was another. Who was
we got attacked. That's what I'm saying. We wasn't. It was against.
Yeah, they did get attacked.
That's what I'm saying. America's really, we don't be trying to get in nobody bull stuff till it happened to us.
But
back in the day.
A lot of that. That's why I think Tucker is very against that because he said he took a strong stance towards Afghanistan back when it happened, like saying like that we should, and then he came back later and was like we shouldn't have did that. So now I think that's why he looks at it to try to prevent.
He said
everything.
he was believing what the government and the media was telling him.
Well, I mean, I definitely think it's okay to be a little critical of that.
Yeah, Americans do that.
I think you should take everything with a grain. Take everything with a grain from anyone, from everybody.
Well, in my opinion,
I think Ben went kind of hard.
I feel like
Ben breaks down everything you say.
I feel like America needs to worry about themselves, worry about our own country,
but you have to sometimes worry about other things too.
I don't think we need to worry about over there. If they got other countries that's close by that can assist, why are we over there?
I'm not mad at.
Well, I actually have said that to my friend. He was like explaining to me. He was like, it's strategically to keep U.S. interests in said area.
Because they got all the bases everywhere.
In order to protect U.S. interests and influence in that area, you have to go defend it.
Because you remember how when we watched the strongest military video, like we got so many bases in countries.
Yeah, I understand that, but what's the purpose of having NATO for if they're right there and we gotta keep going and bringing our troops?
I think some of the U.S. influence is in those NATO countries in those areas.
Yeah, I think it's important. I do to keep good relations with other countries. That's how you stay. Like think about it. The more people you cool with, the more friends you have in different places, the better off you are.
It's strategic. Like it's U.S.
economy wise,
strategic,
military,
defense.
Like if you're a country and no one likes you because you don't, then if there comes a time when you might need
you versus everybody.
Yeah.
No, I think it's like
I think it's case by case.
Yeah, we got to stay at world power
because the source cannot be trusted. That they are lying to you. That they're always lying to you, always, and that no counter evidence is necessary to support your new thesis because again they're lying to you and they've hidden all the evidence. We are now in the world of the unfalsifiable. Any evidence against your new thesis is discounted by the fact that it's coming from a source that lies to you. And no evidence for your thesis is available. Why? Because they hid it and they are lying to you. So then it comes down to what is the thesis that Tucker is using? What is the narrative that Tucker is backing? Well, as he says, he is using the thesis that every single power that exists in the United States is lying to you about everything, down to the most basic morality of Americanism. Things like, was America right to involve itself in World War II? Was America right to drop a nuclear weapon on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in order to end the war? Now listen, as always, when Tucker talks, there's a grain of truth to much of what Tucker says. There's truth, a lot of truth, to the idea that a lot of our powerful institutions have been corrupted and that people inside those institutions have used that power in order to lie and change the narrative. But there is a difference, again, between healthy skepticism, a demand for evidence. That's what skepticism is. Right? Being critical, being a critical thinker is a demand for evidence. That is not the same thing as just asking questions. Just asking questions means the search for answers is totally worthless. And all the answers are deemed insufficient anyway. When you start thinking that being a critical thinker is just the asking of the questions rather than critically evaluating evidence and claims and counterclaims, that's wrong.
I ain't gonna lie. I think Ben was being super critical of Tucker. In my
They got
opinion.
beef a little bit. It seems like.
Yeah. I feel like ever since Tucker has branched out of like the media space and gone independent, he's gotten a lot of conflict and
people
slack from
definitely
people.
You think
Tucker
because of
way
the
more than
Candace
me.
situation?
I think it is a little bit with that.
Tucker's great. I don't know.
I think so.
Because you remember as soon as it happened, they was on
he
each
did
other.
interview Candace. No, that's true.
Yeah.
He may
And
may
that's
have
probably
rubbed
why
him the wrong way.
Ben. Yeah.
Ben would not be cool to debate with, bro.
He would be hard to debate.
No, he'd be hard
I
to
think
debate.
the
I
best
love
debate
Tucker,
ever
but
would be
Him and Vic.
him and Vivek. Him and Ben and Vivek.
Vivek.
Ooh.
I'd actually
That's
like to
two
see that.
geniuses, actually.
Who do you think would win?
I don't know. It depends on what they probably agree on a
But
lot
I feel
of
like
things.
Tucker, like him going over to talk to the guy in Russia. Was that Russia?
Yeah.
That was in Russia. Putin.
Like Putin.
Boy,
like,
he
that
got a lot
he
of
was
flack for that.
critically- He was critically thinking right there. Like,
He was,
Yeah.
and
everything
he
that
was
does
not
is
letting
critically
him just.
thinking.
He got a lot of
was-
slack
yeah.
for that though.
Well,
People
but
was
is he,
hating.
so he's mad for him for critically thinking or asking the
Asking
He's
the
mad at him
question.
because he's saying he doesn't agree with anything. Everything is a
But
lie.
everybody's supposed to critically think. That's what.
But he's saying that's not a critically thinking when you were just to take everything as it's false no matter
Yeah,
what.
I told you he was being real critical of what Tucker said. Like he
Well,
took it,
I
he took it
mean,
at face value
if you-
and saying, "Well, you're not actually critically thinking if you
But
just
you
think
know,
everything they tell you is a lie."
if you're
But
in
he
a
never said
relationship,
that.
if you're in a relationship and your partner lied to you about one thing, you're gonna
Oh, you
definitely
gonna always question that, for
everything.
sure.
So that's what I'm saying.
For sure.
But you can't say that everything she's saying is lying. Not everything.
Well, not
You just
everything,
critically.
but
You
he
just take it
said-
case by case.
He was
And
saying,
that's what Tucker's doing. He's not saying everything. Was a
No,
lie.
that's
He's
what we
just
already said. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
saying
no,
he's
that's
not
what we're
doing that,
saying.
but he did say that. But he was just over exaggerating.
Facts.
All right, guys. Let us know what y'all think about this Ben and Tucker situation. We're out of here, guys.